Hello everyone. As you can see, I'm by myself today, and that is because we have another lore video drop. Now, any of you who checked out our video last week, which I believe we went over Murderbot, and yeah, we talked about Murderbot and my sister ranked it. But if you watch that, you already know what today's lore video is about. If not, then we are discussing probably one of my favorite gods in the pantheon. Um, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of gods in the pantheon I like, but the goddesses like Fontame, Adrestia, and stuff are probably ones I do enjoy more. They're a lot of fun to write. But as far as gods, so like the male ones, my favorite by far so far to write is Puluosore. Or Daphomos, if you'd like to go with his nickname. Don't let him catch you calling him that, though, because he likes to be a little bit more formal and use everyone's real names. But Puluosore, my god of fear. Today we will be discussing him, kind of going over some of his powers, and just a little about him. Now, a lot of people are going to instantly think, oh, he's the villain. And while he is antagonistic in the story, because there's no doubt about it, he is an antagonist in the story. That doesn't necessarily make him a villain. He isn't out to just do harm to people for no reason. He's not actually villainous in nature. The other gods don't see him as villainous. Some of his supporters or his minions might, but as far as the other gods themselves, they don't, and he's not meant to be a villain. Now, that with how he looks, which we'll get into that in a moment, that might seem kind of contradictory that he is supposed to be a villain, but no, he's supposed to be an antagonist. And I know a lot of you out there are thinking, well, isn't an antagonist a villain? An antagonist is simply the force going up against the protagonist. Now, depending on the story, technically your protagonist could be the villain of the story and the antagonist the hero. They are not mutually exclusive to like hero and villain. They're just like this who the story's about and then the counteracting force going against them, which would be the antagonist there. So he is antagonistic. Him and Fontume are definitely antagonistic to our lovable group of dick munches, let's be honest, in the Killer Hunters, which at the moment we are up to Colt Crimson, Lance Emerald, Little Lexi, and as a subdivision but not an official member is Ruth Ruby. So they're expanding. They're doing good so far. But yeah, that's our core group, and Puluasaur would definitely be antagonistic towards them. And Fontame would be as well. Now, as far as the actual more villains of the story, those would take the place of Puluasaur's minions. Now, all of his minions aren't villains per se, but some of them definitely are. Isaac the Killer Marionette, yeah, he is straight up a villain. He's not only antagonistic, he is just straight up like evil. He has his own, dreams and goals and evil planned. Michael Carpenter and Chris Cross, those two are kind of funny because they've taken on like their characters that they're portraying, right? All of his minions go through different variations based on what causes fear, and they take on these characters. That's one of his abilities, one of his powers. So, like, Jenna Fullbane, which is going to be a very prominent character in the third book that will be coming out, uh, probably early next year. I'm currently writing it at the moment. But she's going to be very prominent. She's going to be the main antagonist of the third book. Now, she's one who's worked her way up. So she started Puluasaur, like made her come into existence. I think it's like 50,000 years ago. It might have been longer than that. But I know it's 50,000 something. Well, it could have been 50,000. Yeah, I think it's 50,000 years ago. I'd have to look back, but I'm pretty sure it's somewhere around there. But she started off as a simple, like, whisper in the wind, because that's what, like, scared people where she was positioned at. The planet she was sent to, think of it as a more, like, dark age. That's about where it was in its evolution stage, or how modern it was as compared to our Earth. Think of it like in the medieval ages. So what terrified people was things as simple as just whisper in the wind. So the wind would carry with it, and she'd just be that slight noise, that slight whisper you'd hear. That was her job. She was the lowest of levels. And she's done such a great job over the years that she's worked her way up and became like one of his lieutenants. So one of the ones commanding the other troops. And she had originally worked under, I believe it's Michael Carpenter, who at that time had his own thing going on and was actually intelligent and can talk. Now, I'm kind of getting off on a tangent here. We will talk about each of the individual ones at a later date. We will talk about all of them, I promise, and their history. But back to Puluasaur, I was just kind of giving an example of like how his power works on his minions, how he creates them, and what that kind of does. But back to Puluasaur. Now, in the first book, our first introduction to him, which I really like the scene. I admit, like, I will always admit that the first book is weaker writing from me, but it's because it was my first book. Like, the second book, I think I definitely learned a lot in my writing stages, and I advanced. I think the second book is definitely more well written than the first one. Eventually, once I finish all the books, I'm going to go back, look at the first book, and rewrite it and bring it up to terms with where I think it should be. But it's still okay. And in the first book, I'm really happy with his introduction because Scarecrow Brady, who just went toe to toe with Crimson and Lance, but got bested, like he wakes up and he's in Puluasaur's like conference room or his throne room, whatever you want to call it. And he's imagining that he's being like just swarmed by fire insects because he's a scarecrow. So like the things that could be most intimidating to him would be fire, it could be insects. So they're mixed together. And the entire time he's the only one able to see it because you have like Jenna Fulbane, you have Michael Carpenter, Isaac, all of them on the sidelines. You have a couple of others. And like Scarecrow Brady's in the middle just freaking out, like he feels the pain. He like it is terrifying and he feels it. And then it's just gone. And then it starts again. Like that's the type of power Puluasaur has. He can just make your greatest fears come to life. And then it's like they never existed in the same thing. His power usually can be since it's fear, I had to think about how to try and portray that besides just them being scared, but as an actual like kind of powery element you could see. And for him, it's usually in the form of a black or purple mist. So in the middle of this room, this throne room, stands a, of course, throne that's, I think it's right around 25, 30 foot, could be a little bit bigger. And this is where Puluasaur kind of channels his extra power from. Because remember, him, and the other three of the big four are all immensely powerful. The galaxy, the universe came into existence when their like barest form of light touched each other, and their powers combined, it just blew up and created the entire universe, right? These guys are incredibly powerful to the part where they can have like dimensions within a universe that's actually outside of the universe. That's their own realms. So like a heaven and a hell type thing that exist in the universe but on a different plane. Like that's how insanely powerful these guys are. And Puluasaur, like all the big four, have to have some object or some symbol that they have that they can channel all that extra power into, so it's not just going out in the universe, because that's actually one of the ways that a new god can be formed, is their powers going out into the universe if they collide again, even though it's a much more tame version because it's like a seepage deal. Like a new god can be formed from that. So they channel them into different symbols or objects. For Puluasaur, it's his throne, which, like I said, is like a 25, 30 foot, might even be bigger, because I know Puluasaur, when he's in his just non-shrunken down form, he stands well over 20 feet tall. And this throne, like etched into it, all down the sides and around it, it looks like distorted faces screaming in terror. And out of the mouths, just a gape, like the little black mist comes around and it just swirls around the throne, which I really liked writing that. I like the visualization of it in my own head. I'm hoping people who read it kind of get that and they appreciate the visualization of it as well. And on top of this throne sits the man himself, Puluasaur, which, when he's on his throne, he could take on his true self look, which, has like black, slicked black hair. He kind of looks like, if you can imagine, a villain from a Western movie. Like Duster, the slicked back, black hair. That's him. But, see, the thing is, he doesn't normally take that form when he's on his throne. That's more the form from when he's talking to the other gods and goddesses, and he considers that more his true form. On the throne, he has half his body still with like the duster on, but going up to his face, now you just have a purple flame that just ebbs, but it only takes up half his face. The other half is a demented clown. And like going down the body, like it's even like this half is in clown garb while this one's in the duster. The face, half demented clown, half purple flames that, ebb and flow, go larger and smaller. And in the middle of the purple flame, it's just a red eye. Like, I do like that, and that's the form he takes to intimidate his subordinates, or just in general. Like, if he was out on the planet and just kind of trying to scare people, that would probably be the form he would take. And in my universe, part of the reason why people are scared of clowns is actually because of Puluasaur and his forming of this like hybrid demonic clown version. So you have that, which is absolutely terrifying for anyone to look at. And since his power's constantly being channeled into his throne, like looking at his throne, you don't get the like just sheer awesomeness of the black slash purple mist that can swirl around it, because just looking at it starts invading your mind and causing you to experience your greatest fears. Just being in proximity of the throne, even if you're not looking at it, can make those fears start coming to life, as can be being close to Puluasaur. Now, all the big four are semi-immune to each other's powers, but it still can cause the other ones like discomfort to the point where they don't like looking at his throne. And their symbols of power can do the same thing to him, cause him a discomfort. It's not that they're, fully falling for it like the weaker gods and stuff can, or his subordinates, even though they are made of fear. Like, this is the source that created them, and it still has its effect on them. The other gods are not like that, but like in the first one, Fantome's like, can he step off the throne as she's kind of looking away, just because it still provides a mild discomfort for them. So, Puluasore's whole goal, and I'm sure you could guess this from him being the god of fear, is simply to spread fear. That's it. Now, what causes fear changes based on where you are, what time you're in. Like, what people are scared of and how far it takes to scare them changes drastically. We can see that in our own history, or just looking over at a different culture. Like, what scares them could be entirely different than us. Almost all cultures have a boogeyman, but exactly how that boogeyman acts and is perceived and looks can change drastically. So, Puluasaur, as times change, so does his minion. That's why I brought that up earlier. Like, you see the wraparound? Yeah. Bet you thought I was just going off on a tangent because I forgot what I was doing. No, it all comes back. So, currently, all of them are taking the forms of pretty much horror movies on the, you know, central location we're at, the planet that has Crimson and all them. So, this. Horror movies are big, just like they would be in our culture now. So they take on the forms of them. Now, in horror movies, generally, people die. Now, Puluasaur is not all about just murdering for the sake of murder. Like, he's not opposed to murdering people, obviously. But for the most part, he just kind of lets them do what his minions do what they want to, as long as they produce the desired result of fear. Now, some of them have gone out of control, like Isaac, or even to crisscross to a certain extent. But he's fine with looking the other way as long as they're still performing the job they're supposed to. Because you can't have the world without fear. Even with humans, fear is the natural instinct that helps to keep us alive. And without fear, you can't have bravery, which helps us to move up to that next step. Because courage and bravery can only exist if there is fear to overcome. That's why I find it so fitting that Puluasore's wife is Moriel, my goddess of bravery. I feel like it's very fitting that those two are together. You can't really have one without the other. I mean, it works. I like it a lot. Some people might not. They might find it cliche, but my universe, I get to decide. And yeah, Puluasaur and Moriel are a great couple. They've been married for millions of years at this point. And Moriel is very supportive of him, and he's very supportive of her. He tries to make sure there's always opportunities where people can prove their courage, their bravery by overcoming his fear. And Moriel is there to, you know, make sure that there's courage and bravery in the world too. So it's a nice balancing act there, and it helps keep the world going. It helps to keep the inhabitants of the universe safe. I say inhabitants because not all of them are humans. Like, there's a lot of different species, a lot of different creatures. Like, depending on the planet you're on, you have no clue what you'd get. And in future books, we might even have some that take place on some of these other planets. And there might even be other gods that are getting involved. But, yeah. So it's a nice thing, and those two work well together. And Puluasaur just works towards making sure fear stays in the world like it's supposed to. Now, he gets along very well with Fantôme. They have like their sibling quarrels, as you might call it. But those two are actually probably the ones that get along the best out of the big four. The god of storytelling, he's more aloof. Like, he gets along with the other three, his siblings, but for the most part, he kind of does his own thing. The goddess of luck and games, she gets along very well with Fantôme, and Puluasaur acts as like a protective older brother to her. But they do things for their own amusement that she disagrees with. So there's kind of that whole, like, oh, how could you do this? Or, come on, guys, we're better than that. So, but they do get along very well with one another. But yeah, Puluasaur, if he taps his fingers, like you'll see a little wisp of purple or black smoke come out from where it makes contact. It's just his power coming out. But yeah, so he's not a villain, but he is the antagonist of the story, and you will see him pretty prominently in the entirety of the Killer Hunter series. In some of the other series, he won't be featured as prominently, if at all. Uh, so like my A Web of Lies and Desire series that I'm currently making. I'm working on like 3 books at the time. You probably won't see Puluasaur much at all. You probably won't see a lot of the gods inherently. Like, it won't be in your face like this, but they will probably be in there in a blink and miss it moment. Same with my Rising to the Top series, which is a wrestling series that I'm working on book 2 for. That one's gonna have it, because all my books will take place in the same universe. So you know they're all there. It's just a matter of what are they up to and how prominently are they making sure to feature themselves. Now, the big four are very prominent in the Killer Hunter series, and so you'll see a lot of them. And for those of you like myself who enjoy Puluasaur, who enjoys Fantôme and the Goddess of Luck and Games, like, that's a great thing. I'm always looking forward to writing their next chapter or writing the next interaction with them. Like, Jenna Fulbane and Puluasaur have a very good like discussion with one another in book 3, and I'm looking forward to when you guys get to see that. Uh, Goddess of Luck and Games is coming back, and yes, she's in for it. She's coming back with a vengeance. But yeah, all of it's good fun. I think that's about all I have to say about Puluasaur. If you guys have any other questions about him, any more lore you'd like to know, let me know in the comments below. Because I'm sure I missed a ton, because I did get off on different tangents, but I wrapped it back around, so you can't say too much about that. But yeah, I'm sure there's plenty of lore I missed. Plenty of things I haven't even thought about, so yeah, if anyone actually watches these videos and you actually are interested, leave a comment down below, and I'll do a future video where I just react to some of the comments and I answer those lore questions, as long as I don't feel like they're too bad of spoilers for what I have coming, especially because I'd hate to do a spoiler, right? And then that spoiler changes, and people are like, well, what about this? So I don't want to do the spoiler in the first place, but I'd hate even worse to do a spoiler that's not a spoiler, because I don't fully control the direction the books go into. The characters dictate a lot of what happens, and I'm just there to jot it down. Because there's a lot of things that I have in my mind, and as I'm writing it up, as I'm going, the characters just change it on the fly, and I just have to make it work. So, yeah, as long as your question isn't something that I think would get into spoiler territory, I'd probably answer it for the lore. And if it's something I hadn't thought about, well, you'd make me think about it, and then I would have lore for that specific thing. So, yeah, this has been this month's lore video. There will be another one in July, because I'm going to do one lore video a month. And until then, you will see me and my sister doing our little videos that we've been having a lot of fun with. Next week's video will be, should be another one of our pull out of the hat a random horror movie, which is a lot of fun, and I kind of have some ideas for some things we can do with those, horror movies that we pull out of hats. And I think we could have a lot of fun with that in some future videos, so if you like the content, that's great. I hope you guys like it. But yeah, always tune in to Cyclone of Fright to catch up on what we're doing. I'm, an author that you've never heard of before. I'd like to say I'm the best author you've never heard of before, but I don't want to get too egotistical, so I'm just going to go with I'm a author you've never heard of before. If you're watching this video, then that means you've heard of me, so maybe it's like the whole Captain Jack Sparrow thing. I must be the worst author you've ever heard of. But you have heard of me. Anyways, thank you to all my ghost ghouls and goblins for tuning in. I have a lot of fun talking about this, as you can tell. I planned on this video being like 10 minutes long, and we're up to about 30. I just have a blast talking about, like, the literary world I've made, and I hope you guys enjoy it. If you guys happen to be at PopCon Indy, June 27th through June 29th, make sure to check out my booth. I'll have a booth there where I'll be selling books 1 and 2, book 1 of the wrestling, and I have keychains and posters with scenes from the books, some of Little Lexi and Puluasaur. I think people like those. And my sister will be selling her book as well. We'll be signing the books, posters if you want. So, yeah. Check us out if you happen to be there and you care. Um, if you're not, but you do want to check out the books, you can find them over on Amazon. You can just search up my name, Damon Pill, and then you should pop up with, like, my books. Same thing with her. You just go Chantel Bellamore, and her book should pop up for you. Book 2 is in Kindle Unlimited if that's something you're interested to, and it has a, like, forward part where it does kind of a recap of the first book. The recap I felt like I did pretty well on. For those who just want to jump into the second book and wait till I revamp the first book, that's perfectly fine with me. You will miss a little bit of the beautifulness of the characters of Crimson and all of them, but that's perfectly fine. Like I said, I will revamp the first book once I get through the series, because then I'll feel confident enough going back and doing it. I don't want to mess with it too much and maybe mess things up going down the line. If I've already got the story done, then I can go back. I know every place I'm heading to, so I can make sure I don't mess that up. I could incorporate maybe a couple more little, like, wink, wink moments on foreshadowing. And I could just elevate it to my current writing style, which I do feel is better. But anyways, you guys have a great day. I will see you guys next week. And as always, stay spooky. I think that's the first time I said that. Is that the first time I said that? I don't know. Do I need to start saying that more often? Huh. Anyways, bye guys. Have a good one.